restore it to being a good office where people are happy to come to work every day and are fighting together, not against one another, on behalf of the citizens of Rockingham County for justice. That's the problem with that office. I think another thing that concerns me, and I don't think it needs to be this way, I think the county attorney's office through the years, with the exception of folks at the top, has been too green of an office. They bring in, from my view, too many brand new lawyers fresh out of law school, and there's a reason for that. Because people don't want to work there. Experienced lawyers are not coming there from other counties to go work in Rockingham. Therefore, they're left picking up the brand new students out of law school to come start at the bottom. They find out what the office is like, and then they flee. That's going to change under my leadership.
Thank you, Jason. Pat?
Well, that's not true. We just interviewed a number of attorneys for 2 open positions at the county attorney's office, and we had numerous applicants, and most of them were not right out of law school, and we hired 2 people. One of those prosecutors has been an assistant county attorney up north for years, at least 3 years. Another prosecutor that we hired has been an assistant district attorney in Massachusetts for, I think, 5 years or so. And they're both ready to essentially hit the ground running. So that's not necessarily true. But what I would say about why people leave the office, I think there has been a morale problem. There's a number of reasons for that. I think one of the reasons is, we haven't had a raise, or we didn't have a raise for a period of about 3 years. Then we had a stipend, I think, of $500. But I think, that was part of the issue there. And also, I agree that people have been treated differently and maybe not fairly over the years. I am a lead prosecutor. I supervise 3 or 4 other attorneys in the office and support staff. But I'm not the person that makes the policy, and I'm not the person that can necessarily enforce the policy. I'm not the county attorney yet. I would like to be. But that's, that wasn't my job at the time. It's not my job now. But I think whoever takes office needs to go in there, set those clear policies, hold everyone to those policies. And if you do that and people know that they're being treated fairly, then the morale is going to increase, and you're going to get, the people are going to work harder for you because they're going to know that you're treating them fairly. And that's what I intend to do. And that's what I've done as a lead prosecutor over the last almost 16 years.
But Pat, you're seeing that happening, those more experienced people coming into the office, because those people are seeing light at the end of the tunnel, light that people have been looking for a long time, not the office that you've ascended through for a year. They see the changes coming and they want to get on board.
Pat, you can respond, and then we'll have Michael the last word on that question, and then we'll switch gears.
Well, again, I've been part of the interview process for at least 11 years now, and I can tell you that when we do have a position open, we have numerous people apply, and many of them have all different types of backgrounds, such as civil experience, such as prosecutorial experience. And the fact of the matter is sometimes we do want someone out of law school. It depends what type of position we're looking at. If we need someone to come in and replace an attorney 2 or a more experienced person, then obviously we're going to hire someone with more experience. But if we're looking for someone to be, a new attorney that we want to train and bring through the ranks, then we'll hire someone with less experience. So again, through the years, we have had plenty of people apply to the office, and we have hired some great talented people.
Michael?
Thank you. Michael?
I think the county attorney's office is the perfect place to hire young attorneys, because that's when you learn how to do jury trials and you get a lot of experience. So it's very attractive for younger attorneys to come in there. I wouldn't expect someone who's been in a private practice for 8 or 9 years, who've worked to build up their practice, to want to get rid of all of that they've worked so hard for, where they get paid a lot better than we do, and they deserve it, to go work for the county attorney's office. If you have a young attorney right out of law school and you have the proper training program in place, you can train this person the way you want them to prosecute cases so that they learn how to do it the correct way. And after 3 or 4 years, if they want to go somewhere else, I'll thank them for their service. But if they want to stay, they'd be glad to stay.
Thank you.
Okay. So we wanted to do something a little different as far as the programming is concerned. You guys have been answering questions from us, but I'm sure that each of you has a question for the other or the others. And so we're going to allow you to do that, and we're going to start with Pat.
Okay.
Please feel free to ask them whatever you want. But you
can
can't
do
ask us questions.
That's right. Happens now.
So I get a question for both my opponents? One?
Sure.
Okay. Let me look here through my questions here. I guess with Attorney DeCroce, and I know you've been a district court prosecutor for a number of years, but when is the last time that you tried a felony level case?
April 1997. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a sexual assault case at the Red Roof Inn in Salem. This girl went to a wedding with a couple of friends. They all got drunk. She woke up, and one of her friends was having sex with her. I remember it like it was yesterday because the case went in great. Judge McHugh was the judge. We went into chambers. He was telling the defense attorney, your guy's going away for 30 years. There's no way he's not getting convicted of this. And he got found not guilty on both charges. Judge McHugh went in and yelled at the jury. The next day, he called me up to chambers for the first time in my life to tell me that he couldn't sleep because what a horrendous decision they had made. And when he talked to them, they told him that the defendant was lying and his friend was lying, so they decided not to believe anybody. I remember it like it was yesterday. It's been 17 years since I've done a felony jury trial, but I haven't had a stroke, and I know what I'm doing in a courtroom. I remember openings, closings, cross-examination. In district court, the rules of evidence still apply. Case law changes still apply. We do suppression motions. We have experts. We do everything they do at the county attorney's office except make closing statements and opening statements.
You want the same question to Jason, or do you want a different question to Jason?
A different question, if that's okay.
Feel free.
Isn't it true that you've been a New Hampshire attorney for only 5 years, and that in that time you've never tried a felony level case in New Hampshire, and you've never supervised other attorneys?
In my time in New Hampshire, yes, that's true. But I didn't, unlike you, I didn't start my career in New Hampshire, and I haven't been an employee of the Trumbull County Attorney's Office for the better part of the last decade and a half. And that's not the office that I got my start in, and that's not how I learned how to prosecute cases. I prosecuted cases elsewhere in a busy county prosecutor's office, trying felony jury cases in an inner city. So as this campaign has gone on, you've changed your tactic. Is at one point, one of your opponents has never tried a felony jury case ever before, and now that's has never tried a jury case in the state of New Hampshire. As far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's a great difference between trying a jury case in New Hampshire, Vermont, New York, Maine, or anywhere else. If you're experienced in front of juries, you know how to try felony cases, that's what you know how to do. And that's something that I know how to do.
Jason, questions for one or both of your opponents?
Sure. I'll start with Michael. Michael, you've had a accomplished time running your own prosecutor's office, and you've spent a significant amount of time on the trail talking about your private prosecution office, where you contract with other police departments to essentially handle the prosecution of their cases. And you've talked about running an office, managing people, supplies, and so forth. What I wanted to ask you is, in the event you become county attorney, what is your plan for DeCroce prosecution? Are you going to shut that down and absolve yourself of any financial interest in the contracts you have with the number of towns that you are employed throughout the area, or are you going to collect a paycheck both from your job as Rockingham County Attorney and also the towns that you prosecute for?
Well, Jason, that wouldn't be fair of me to do that. It'd be a conflict of interest as well. Yeah, DeCroce prosecution ends the day I get elected as county attorney. I already have a transition plan in place with all the departments. I've already gone over it with everything. DeCroce prosecution will no longer exist, and the name will no longer exist. It will then become Ilberg-Lamb prosecution.
And you'll have no financial interest in that?
Absolutely none. You can check my tax records for the next 2 years, Jason, and you won't see a dime on my tax records from any of those towns.
And Pat, for you, you've spent 15 years at the county attorney's office, and you've talked about how you've risen through the ranks, you've supervised people, you've been involved in hiring and firing decisions, you report directly to the deputy county attorney, give input to the deputy, to the county attorney. Yet at many times through this process, we've heard there are certain things you couldn't do in the office because you didn't have the authority to do it. You can't do diversion cases. You can't do alternative sentencing. The office, through the better part of this last year, there's been a great deal of conversation about dissension in the office. My question to you is, with your influence being a leader in the office over the course of 10 years or so, what have, other than being in a courtroom and trying cases, which you talk a lot about, what have you done to try and make things better up there?
Well, I think, you know, what I do or what I have done through the years is I lead by example. And additionally, if I disagree with something that the deputy county attorney or the county attorney are doing, or if I disagree with a policy, I would certainly let them know that. But obviously, as everyone is aware, if you're not the county attorney, if you're not the elected official, you don't get to make the final decision. So I didn't get to make those final decisions about various things like alternative sentencing or the drug court. But what I have been able to do and what I have done through the years is the attorneys and the folks that I supervise, I work closely with them. I drop in their office, I talk with them about their cases, I give them advice about whether or not they need an expert witness, whether or not there's going to be a suppression issue, how I would deal with that, what would be an appropriate plea offer in that type of case. I sit second chair on jury trials with the prosecutors that I supervise, again, to give them some guidance and advice. I organize and conduct grand jury with the folks that I supervise. I review all of their indictments. We discuss all of the cases, and you know, again, if we think that there's an issue and ethically we can't bring a case forward, then I would discuss that with the attorneys as well. So I'm proud of what I've done in the county attorney's office for almost 16 years. The folks that I supervise, I think, would say the same thing. I have received evaluations every year, and they do ask for feedback from people that you supervise. I have never had a negative evaluation with regard to that issue.
And now I'd like to introduce Michael Zaino, who has arrived. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.
I understand you were actually prosecuting cases today, so that's a good thing.
It is.
We're in the portion of the program where you get to ask your opponents whatever question you'd like to ask. So
That's a great portion to start on. Thank you. I
so
appreciate it.
here you go. Ask away.
All right, I'll start with you, Michael, if I may, and just ask you, during this campaign, you've said some pretty harsh things about the office in general. I just want to know what you plan to do on day one moving in to get that office to respect you and follow you going forward.
Sure. Well, I have said harsh things about how the office, what the office is like right now. I've also said good things, that there's a lot of good people over there that need and deserve the respect and the support from the community. First thing I'm going to do on day one is establish a protocol of professional and ethical conduct, which needs to be followed or people will no longer be working there. I'm going to tell everyone that this is the Ducros regime now. Anything that happened in the past is done. We're going to go from here forward. You're all going to get a fair shake. I'm going to review everybody. I'm going to put in policies, I'm going to put in procedures, and I'm going to put in guidelines. And if you can't follow those, then you're not going to be here. That's what I would do on day one.
Thank you. Jason, for you, if I may, you've been very aggressive in this campaign in terms of press releases and things of that nature. It's a very similar strategy to one employed by Jim Reams and how he ran that office, being very aggressive with the press. I just want to know how you're going to change the nature of that office if you are elected.
Well, I mean, to go off of your questions as far as the press is concerned, I'm certainly not going to operate the office the same way Jim Reams did. And when there are times that we're handling cases that get attention, it'll be prosecutors in the office that are out front and center in front of cameras. I'm not a glory hound. If you're trying a case in my office, I don't need to be standing out in front of the cameras talking about your case. I think that's important to give credit to the people that are in the office, as opposed to standing there as the county attorney and trying to garner all the spotlight. So that's not something that I'm interested in doing. I think it's important in that office to go in there, and what I'm going to do is lead by example and be open and honest with everybody in that office.
Thank you. And Pat, there's been a lot in the news about you and whatever relationship there is with Jim Reams and his support. How do you effectively, on day one, transition into the Pat Conway era?
Well, there has been a lot of negative publicity in the news, but if you work in the county attorney's office and you see what I do on a day-to-day basis and how I treat people, the people there know that I work hard. The people there know that I treat people fairly. And I think they believe that if I'm elected as county attorney, I will treat people fairly. It's not about whether you like someone or you dislike someone, it's business. And if they're good at their job, they're going to be promoted. If they're not so good at their job, then there will be a consequence. But again, I have a proven track record of working very hard in that office, of leading by example, and of treating the folks fairly that I supervise. And I think that that is the message that people know that work for me or has worked for me in the past, and that's what the folks know at the county attorney's office, and I would continue to treat people fairly if I was elected as the county attorney.
Thank you.
Don't think, Michael, that you're going to get away from questions from them, but we're going to go to Michael DeCroce. And Michael, feel free to ask each one of them a question.
Well, thanks. I might as well start with Michael Zano. We've heard a lot about your drug experience up at the U.S. Attorney's Office and also at the Superior Court level. What other experiences do you have doing felony cases besides drug cases?
It's a good question. I just had a sentencing today on a sexual assault, indecent exposure charge. That was a jury trial in June. I've had trials that ranged from armed home invasions to burglaries and sexual assaults, criminal threatenings, you name it. For the most part, I've done it. I've been an assistant county attorney spanning almost 9 years. And in that time, I had a certain period of which was 3 years, where I was specifically designated as a drug prosecutor. And after that, I was a drug task force prosecutor for the Rockingham County, but I also had tons of cases besides just drug cases. So I've prosecuted all types, gone to trial, you name it.
Wasn't most of your time spent in district court?
No, actually, when I was assigned to the Rockingham County Attorney's Office, one of my duties was to be the town prosecutor for, the first time was Candia and Nottingham, and then the second time when I went back was Candia, Nottingham, and Deerfield. In addition to those assignments, I also carried a felony caseload at the Rockingham County Attorney's Office. So I would do jury trials, as well as 2 days a month I would find myself in district court dealing with the daily docket, you know how that is, whether it's 20, 40 cases, 60 cases on for the day. So it'd just be a couple days a month that I was actually in the district court trying those cases in addition to the felony files. And I'll say I still managed to carry one of the higher caseloads in the office in terms of felony caseloads. I like what I do, I like to work, and so I was able to do both.
Patricia,